by the time I last spoke to you in London, I had kind of a plan for how things were going to come together on that tour. Basically, as soon as Disrupt was over, we hit the ground running with the new kind of era of the band. The plans were all in place. We had significant, obviously, a situation where you're adding a new member to the band and all the things that go along with that. There were conversations that were had prior to that tour starting. The members that were myself and CC and Jinxx and Jake, we had lunch multiple times to discuss what the plans were, what we wanted to do prior to me leaving on that tour. And then kind of while I was on the summer tour in the States, the Disrupt tour, and then in the UK doing the headline tour, there was significant plans that were kind of being put in place. Come August, Lonny, who was playing guitar for me at the time in my solo project, I told him, basically, he was from Vancouver. He is from Vancouver. He went back home and I said, hey, I'm going to need you to come back here in about a week. And I wouldn't tell him why. And just because if anybody that knows or has seen anything from Lonny, he is certainly the sweetest person in the whole world and definitely the most gullible person of all time. And I took advantage of both of those characteristics because I wanted the big reveal. But so I had spoken to the band about how I thought he was the right fit. One of the things that's important about him is that he's a massive fan of the band and has been for years. This is his favorite band in the world. And so, I didn't even know until later on, after I had already asked him to be in the band, that he has In the End lyrics tattooed on his arm. And
no
he's
way.
just yeah, it's crazy. I had no idea.
Hang on, let's pause on there for a second. That's absolutely wild. He's in the band and suddenly you realize he's got your own song lyrics tattooed.
That's the thing, is that he didn't tell me, and he's got a full sleeve, and so within the context of the sleeve is script lyrics, but he never told me because he didn't want to make me uncomfortable, because that's the kind of guy he is. He wants to
that's huge.
He doesn't want to make you feel. So it's the story of hiring him is sort of funny, and I'll tell an abridged version, but about a year ago this time, I had my appendix taken out. I had to fast track the process of hiring the band from basically my hospital bed for my solo tour that was coming up in a matter of days. For some reason, my major physical events always occur within days of going on a tour. So I'm in the hospital and I'm going through videos, and I see this guy, Lonny, cool hair, looks like Steve Stevens, like Billy Idol kind of thing. I go, yeah, he'll be fine. I don't know anything about him. I go to the rehearsal. First day I meet him, he is my favorite person I've ever met. He is so pure and innocent and ridiculous. It was like, within 5 minutes of meeting him, he's asking me what color shoes he should wear and all these different things, like aesthetic choices. And then he goes back into the corner of the room and we're like, all right, it's time for lunch. And he's got a backpack and he's got a loaf of bread inside the backpack, unwrapped. And he's just eating slices of bread out of the backpack. I was like, what are you doing? He goes, well, it's cheap. He goes, cheap. And he goes, I want to keep practicing. I don't want to leave. I want to stay here to practice. So I get the songs down. And I kind of took a mental note. I was like, wow, he really wants to do a good job. And look, I'm not saying that other people don't, but part of the thing of hired guns, as it were, is that oftentimes you're hiring a person who's had a lot of jobs in the music industry. Your project is not any more important to them than the previous projects they've worked on or the next one they're going to work on, because that's the nature of I get it. You're not going to care about my record as much as you're going to care about the next one or whatever else. It's whoever's paying you at the time, if you're a hired guitar player or drummer or whatever else. And he was just so dedicated to the process and wanted to do such a good job that I was so taken by his whole personality and everything. So through the course of that tour, I started to realize, I think this is the guy, right? I think, and I told my manager, I told a few people, I said, in the event that this is a situation where we need to have somebody, this is the guy for it. And so by the time that tour had ended, I'd spoken to the band. They had met him. They came to one of my Andy Black shows, and I set him up and made him. I've never told this. I don't think I've ever told this before. He is really a huge fan of Jake and Jinxx a lot. Of course, I mean, they're incredible, but he being a guitar player and bass player, he really wanted to meet them. And so I gave him a bunch of fake information about them to say to them, to weird them out when he met them.
Oh, man. You are cruel. You are cruel, man.
I know. One of which is a thing that I told him. I go, Jake loves it if you go up to him and whistle in his face, really loud, and go like this. Woo! like from the genital region up to the face, like on yourself. Like I go, it's an inside joke. He'll love it. He'll laugh so hard. He'll be so excited that you said that. And so first thing, Lonnie's all nervous. He walks up to Jake and he goes, "Ooh," and there's just silence. And Jake's just like, "What?" And Lonnie looks so uncomfortable. And he's like, "Why did you do that?" And Lonnie's like, "Oh, and then I started laughing and I said, "It's my fault." And that was like the icebreaker. And then they just thought, they thought he was the funniest guy ever. And they loved him. And it was like, it was a nice little thing of like, while it made him uncomfortable for a minute, I knew it would, they would love it about him that he had the balls to walk up and do something silly like that. Cause they know me and they know that I'm the kind of practical joker who would put somebody up to something like that. And they were able to immediately associate with him in that way. And so there was a huge amount of positivity there. And then we got home and I asked him if he wanted to join the band and he cried in my kitchen. And then we were off to the races and we started recording right away. So from August through, I guess we released at the end of September, we wrote those songs on our own, just the 5 of us in Jake's house in a studio. We recorded everything in his studio in his house and we released them. We did everything, just the 5 of us, no outside influence, no outside studio, no outside producer, nothing. And that's been the way we've been working. And then we rolled right from that into the re-record of the first album, which is now complete.